Hi, my name is Gretchen Vogel. Thank you so much for coming to play with my mind today. These videos are on practical spirituality. There is no morality. It does bleed over in psychology, but I'm not representing myself as a therapist of any kind. I'm simply passing on information that I've received in downloads, or now it's called channeling, for 4.5 decades. So today we're finally going to start on the dissolution of our karma. But I think first we have to look at why would we want to do this? I mean, I've been doing it for a while, and I have to say it's not super pleasant to do. So let's start with why bother, okay? Um, One of the reasons that we need to do this is to free up energy, our personal energy, because holding on to these energetic patterns in the subconscious takes up energy. So these practices of dissolving the forms in our personal ecology, it's very well worth it, because we store these things even in our body, if you want to think of it like that. So they might come out of hiding, and then I personally have shingles right now. Talk about karmic patterns coming out of your bodies. Anyway, owning up to your actions and taking self-responsibility for what we've done that we're not proud of doesn't mean that we have to be aware of the thought patterns or emotions that preceded the actions that we're not proud of, because the emotions and thoughts are often done in ignorance anyway. I mean, we cloak ourselves in ignorance a lot of the time here in life. And a lot of times we hide from these unpleasant memories. And I have to say that this was taken with a conversation with Louise Hay. Whether you believe that or not really doesn't matter. These are not my ideas. She had a list of things for me to dissolve, but she said that I was not a young soul, but the situations that were around me created a lot of possibilities for me to build up some bad mojo through actions. So again, just the things that we're not proud of, not the motivations, not really where our actions came from. All we really need to do before we can dissolve the karma is to own up to what we did and not blame someone else. If you looked at my video, cause and effect, you know, the devil didn't make you do it. This was your choice. This was my choice. But justification is a very human thing to do. It's the easiest way to hide our actions from ourselves, is to blame somebody else for them. So I've been playing with doing this, and the next video will be on 4 themes of how I did it. Anyway, we can dissolve these patterns so they are not carried forward with us in our life. But it is kind of a humbling humbling thing to do, taking all this self-responsibility. I think we have to have a strong core of self-love to be able to look honestly at these actions that we're not proud of. And so dissolution can happen in several ways. One of the ways that it happens, just as an example, is to visualize the person that we created the karma with. Just visualize that person with it at the age that that happened. And then we either say, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, that sort of thing. But it doesn't mean that we have to involve the actual person at all. And that's where it's probably a little bit different from asking for forgiveness or the amends process, if you're familiar with that process. But the other person doesn't have to be involved at all, because this is a very internal process that we'll do to free up energy in ourselves and actually become lighter and freer in our minds. One of the reasons that we don't have to look at the thoughts and emotions that preceded it, or any justification, or any situation that caused it, is because it might be hard to trace. For example, my mother's karma was largely imprinted into me, but I couldn't possibly trace where my mother got her karmic patterns. I mean, she grew up with a narcissistic mother in extreme poverty. And so the patterning that she passed on to me, I couldn't associate with any particular, I don't know what my grandmother did. I don't really know their history. A lot of times when we do these things that we regret, perhaps, we know on some level of ourselves that this was not a good idea, but we may not have had any conscious thought saying, no, that's not a good idea. So in our minds, we have to separate the events or the activities or the occurrences that from the thoughts, emotions, or drives that preceded them, even if we could trace them. Because we are so very unconscious until we become aware. And we just have no idea why we do some of the things we do at times. And again, we hide these things from ourselves. And we might believe that our destructive patterns are a good idea to perhaps protect ourselves. It has to do with feeling negative emotion, but we'll get into more of that later on. So first and foremost, we have to see the actions that we're not proud of. And unless we're willing to be introspective with the courage and self-love to be honest with ourselves, we may not be able to do this work on dissolving these patterns. It can be really hard to take responsibility for some of the things that we've blamed other people for all of our lives. And self-responsibility is sort of seeing our part in it. Now, I think once we set the intent to do this, we'll start to see it. Our guides and angels will help us. Now, if we do this work, we'll have a very conscious death transition, because what muddies the waters as we leave our physical bodies are these forms that are a result of our actions. And yeah, we do go through a life review after death, but we're hamstrung in energy in our death transition by not clearing them in life, because clearing these patterns also allows for more joy, more happiness, more peace, and more contentment. And it's very well worth doing. It's not that hard, and we're going to talk about it in the next video. We have a lot more to go on karma. There's a lot of information on co-creation, and there's also a lot of information on the possibilities for creating karma because of the circumstances we find ourselves in. But again, thank you for coming to play with my ideas today. I really appreciate it. My website is howspiritworks.com, and I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you so much.